Hey there! If you're looking for a fun and easy way to earn rewards, including cash and prizes, check out the link in the video description.
The long-lost sarcophagus belonging to ancient Egypt's most powerful pharaoh has been found more than 3,000 years after his death. Archaeologists re-examined a mysterious granite burial found under the floor of a religious center in east-central Egypt, finding it belonged to Ramesses II. Dubbed Ramesses the Great, his reign from 1279 to 1213 BC saw colossal statues and buildings erected in what was marked as the last peak of Egypt's imperial power. The remains of a high priest were originally found in the sarcophagus, but that new discovery has suggested he removed the pharaoh's mummy and coffin to reuse the burial. Egyptologist Frédéric Perraudot, a teacher and researcher at Sorbonne University in France, made the discovery this month after taking another look at a fragment of granite discovered in Abydos back in 2009. He determined that the stone, measuring 5 feet long and 3 inches thick, featured an overlooked engraving that read, "Of Ramses II himself," according to a translated statement from France's National Center for Scientific Research. When I read these results, I was overcome with doubt. I asked my American colleague if I could restudy the file, which he accepted given the complexity of this case, said Perraudot. My colleagues believed that the cartouche preceded by the word king designated the high priest Menkaper who governed southern Egypt around 1000 BC. However, this cartridge actually dated from the previous engraving and therefore designated its first owner. He continued to explain that engravings of the Book of Doors, an initiatory story reserved for kings during the time of the Ramesses, was also featured on the sarcophagus. The royal cartouche contains the coronation name of Ramses II, which is specific to him, but this was masked by the condition of the stone and by a second engraving, added during the reuse, Perraudot said. Archaeologists have long known that Ramses II was buried in a golden coffin, stolen in antiquity, and moved to an alabaster sarcophagus that was later destroyed. The thousands of pieces were placed inside the large granite sarcophagus that was stolen 200 years later by Menkaper for reuse. This discovery is new proof that at this time, the Valley of the Kings was the subject not only of looting but also of the reuse of funerary objects by subsequent sovereigns, said Perraudot. Ramses II was the most powerful and celebrated ruler of ancient Egypt. Known by his successors as the Great Ancestor, he led several military expeditions and expanded the Egyptian empire to stretch from Syria in the east to Nubia in the south. He was the third pharaoh of the 19th dynasty of Egypt. Scientists from Egypt and England recreated Ramses II's face in 2022 using a 3D model of his skull to rebuild his features. They then reversed the aging process, turning back the clock almost half a century to reveal his face at the height of his powers. The result is the first scientific facial reconstruction of the pharaoh based on a CT scan of his skull. Sahar Salim of Cairo University, who created the 3D model of the skull, said the outcome had revealed a very handsome ruler. My imagination of the face of Ramesses II was influenced by his mummy's face, said Salim. However, the facial reconstruction helped to put a living face on the mummy. I find the reconstructed face is a very handsome Egyptian person with facial features characteristic of Ramesses II, the pronounced nose, and strong jaw. Caroline Wilkinson, director of the Face Lab at Liverpool John Moores University, which rebuilt the pharaoh's visage, described the scientific process. She said, "We take the computer tomography, CT, model of the skull, which gives us the 3D shape of the skull that we can take into our computer system. Then we have a database of pre-modeled facial anatomy that we import and then alter to fit the skull. So we're basically building the face, from the surface of the skull to the surface of the face, through the muscle structure, and the fat layers, and then finally the skin layer." She continued, "We all have more or less the same muscles from the same origins with the same attachments. Because each of us has slightly different proportions and shape to our skull, you'll get slightly different shapes and proportions for muscles, and that will directly influence the shape of a face.